First pick random Slark and he won. Yeah, I could see how this is a first pick Slark. He's against Doom Bloodseeker. Let's actually do a little video. It should be fun.
Banana slam jam.
Apparently on stream, he said he wasn't very confident in the items he built. So I'm going to go ahead and make a guess on what items he built based on what I know about Slark, a lot of games, and what he's playing against. So what I see is that he's against Bloodseeker Doom. These are both Slark counters because Slark cannot Dark Pact Doom off, and you also cannot Dark Pact Rupture off. And so the only thing that will work of his in this game will be his ultimate, preemptively before he gets doomed, and then his Essence Shift. So what that means, like Pact and Pounce are not very useful against Bloodseeker and Doom. And if he stands still, he's going to get Jakiro'd, Queen of Pain, Monkey King ultied. So this says that he needs to stand his ground, but he needs to be tanky enough to enter the fight, use his abilities before he gets doomed, get doomed, and then stand his ground. That's what's going to need to happen. He's got a lot of damage behind him. He's got OD, Nyx, like a lot of damage heroes. Actually, all of his heroes do a lot of damage. So Centaur, I guess, is not too much damage, but so I see a lot of damage. So I'm thinking his build needs to be pure tankiness, like purely like I'm gonna get abilities casted on me. I have OD, Astral to save me, and I'm gonna need to stand my ground. So I'm thinking like Echo Saber, SNY, Satanic, Abyssal, BKB, in any given order. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So I'm not even going to look at his items. Let's go ahead and jump into it and see what he's doing. Pretty much every item he buys, I want to give HP and the ability to stand still and make use of Essence Shift. So he's against a double melee offlane, most likely, Monkey King plus Doom. It should be a pretty good lane for him because he's Slark against double melee. It looks like he's actually against a solo offlaner because Monkey King started bottom. It's actually a Bloodseeker support. Okay, so it's Monkey King carry. Interesting. I didn't expect that. Bloodseeker still stays the same in terms of a threat. It's Bloodseeker's abilities, not items that counter you. Lane's even better for him. Monkey King would have been a bit annoying because Jingu is kind of scary for Slark. He goes Orb of Venom against dual melees. Makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't go Orb of Venom here. Doom has pretty high armor. Bloodseeker has pretty high armor. Or sorry, Orb of Corrosion. I wouldn't go Orb of Corrosion. I would just go straight treads. Let's see, does he commit? Okay, he is going treads afterwards. I don't necessarily love the boots, since your Centaur support's not all that great. I feel like I would prefer just Glove of Haste. I feel like you're going to be allowed to hit the Doom, but it looks like it did help him there, so. I would be more about standing my ground in the lane, but it worked out, so maybe Doom just kind of overextended there. Lane's going really well, so we got first pick random, and even though the way to deal with counters in Dota is to get items. I mean, that's just how it is. So usually when you're countered in a game, as long as you have a good lane, things are pretty chill. The games that are really hard is when your hero's countered in-game as well as in lane. But the enemy team chose to counter him in lane. Or sorry, counter him in game, not in lane. Some heroes counter you in both, and that's when matchups are like really hard. But Doom's like pretty weak against you in lane, and the Bloodseeker's also just not there. So giving solo XP 1v2 off lane against Slark is not good. So I'd say the enemy team's kind of noobs here, to be honest. If he first picked random Slark and their response was to give him a 2v1 lane, I'd call that a pub and move on. I think Slark, reason why he's not very strong right now, is his laning phase. So if you give him like a free farm lane, I actually think the hero's really powerful. He just really doesn't get these lanes very often. Okay. So posturing outside the trees, trying to threaten the Doom before he's 6. This lane dynamic power, like this power dynamic's pretty straightforward. When Doom's 6, it's time to like GTFO, but before Doom 6, we're like really powerful. So he goes for the Echo Saber. I'm down to skip Soul Ring in this game because you're against Bloodseeker. The health regen, or like the health cost is pretty significant. Just vary a bunch of clarities and get HP. I'm down for that. So once Doom gets 6, you're kind of chilling. So we're just monitoring that. Doom's now 6. In the replay, we can see that he doesn't have Doom. But in this case, we're kind of just defending our tower and then rotating into jungle. So he's doing the right thing here. Aggression has been halted. He's actually blocking the creep wave to try to get it close to his tower as possible. So that's really smart. Avoiding Doom at all costs. Wherever Doom is, we do not go. He even flew himself sentries, or at least somebody gave him sentries, which is really good for this kind of circumstance. I think really the only way you die is if Doom sees you when nobody else does, or when you don't see him. In this case, he saw 3 heroes bottom. Doom is not enough to kill you. It's always Doom plus like 1 slow or stun, because your passive on your ultimate still works when you're doomed. So if you only get doomed on Slark, you can usually run through trees and escape. So I like that he was really aggressive against Doom, despite the fact that the Doom is level 6. I think he might have also seen that the Doom had no mana. Don't like that he went for the Ogre Axe without buying the components of the Oblivion Staff. He just has no mana. Definitely has to go base. Got his full item. I'm honestly down to participate in fights this game as Slark. Because the Bloodseeker is a support, and because my lane's not all that great. But he looks, and the fight bottom was over by the time he got back to base. So they're going to kill the Doom. So the Echo Saber first, I definitely agree with. I'd probably just go SNY from here. You need status resistance against the Doom and the Bloodseeker Rupture. He's moving out of top because Doom, once again, can threaten him with that ability. I'm very happy to leave my lane when I'm against lane counters. Very happy. He also saw that Rupture was used, so he feels pretty good to participate. The biggest thing is there's not much better to do. You know, Qojqva was the one that taught me, you know, you don't fill up the fights if there's creeps to farm. And the creeps top here aren't really for him to farm because he's countered by Doom. So his options are to like jungle here as Slark, who's not really a flash farming jungler, or to show up to this fight. So I agree with this fight participation. He's also like pretty survivable, 1300 HP. Without Doom there, his abilities are pretty powerful. As long as they have no Doom, no Rupture, he's actually pretty scary. So looks to re-engage a bit. I actually like this active playstyle early game with Slark. Gets the D ward. The active playstyle is really nice if you get off to a good laning start because most carries can't fight with one item, and Slark can. And if you roam the map, you're also likely to find some D wards, like he is. So on Slark, in games where you're having a good start, this is where you end up on the map. He basically allowed his team to take this bottom tower by his aggression. So he actually goes Shadowblade. So Sanj and Yasha says you're going to present yourself to the enemy team, while Shadowblade says, like, I'm going to play off map, and I'm going to look to, like, play the information game. I actually disagree with the Shadowblade because you have Nyx. You kind of have a hero who's already supposed to do that. I would much prefer Sanj and Yasha here. But he goes Linken's. So Sanj and Yasha says, I expect the abilities to get cast on me, and I want them to be less impactful. While Lincoln says, I don't want the abilities to be casted on me. What are their ways to break Lincoln's? Basically just Quap Dagger. I guess with that in mind, Lincoln's is pretty good. Lincoln says that you plan to scale into the late game. You have Batrider against Monkey King, which is a pretty hard counter. Makes it really difficult for Monkey King to carry the game because you can just lasso him out of the Wukongs. So I can see Lincoln's actually being okay. I usually lean away from Lincoln Sphere on Slark because you usually do no damage. So we'll see what he follows it up with. My concern is that Slark does like no damage with Lincoln's. It's interesting that he showed up to this fight because he had a lot of stuff he could have done bottom here. In terms of farming. But he does have ult. And he does get a crucial kill on the enemy mid laner. So it's interesting that Qojqva decided to go there. There was a lot of farm bottom for him to get, and he's also nearing his item. I don't hate it, but I think it was a pretty close call to show up to that fight or not. I'm much more inclined to farm more and walk to fights when it's nighttime. Because during the day, you run into a lot of random heroes and a lot of towers that see you. But during night, that like very rarely happens, so I usually try to roam the map during night. So like TPing to fights I usually don't do, especially against heroes like Bloodseeker that I want to TP out against. Narrowly escapes there, those extra bit of stats really paying off. Reading his abilities, that's a classic. I wouldn't hate if he took the attack speed. I actually wouldn't hate it because of his build. Doing no damage. But honestly, you're supposed to take the Dark Pack like pretty much every time. Puts the sentry back in his inventory. Doing a good job scouting for wards. I don't like that he's showing up to fights with a Lincoln Sphere. Like, to me, the Lincoln Sphere allows me to farm. While, if I'm gonna play the way he's playing, I'd rather have an SNY. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happens as Slark when you have a Lincolns. People just kind of walk away from you. Goes for the mana regen item. I can see why he went the Lincolns, but I don't think it fits this playstyle. It's not really a fighting item. So then he goes for like the damage / threat item, Shadowblade. Okay. That was just a really bad play by Monkey King, playing into the dire vision. Maybe he had a ward there. He kind of had... No, he had no ward. That guy just jumped in blind. Yeah, Monkey King kind of just being a noob. So the thing I do agree with him in this game is if he's alive, they kind of win the fights. Like, he has to itemize to not die rather than itemize to, like, kill people. But you have to be, like, enough of a threat that being alive, like, means something, right? So... I feel like SNY Basher might have been better. Or, like, SNY Scotty type of thing. I also like Blink Dagger a lot. Against heroes like Doom. Because it's really difficult to walk into fights against heroes that can stun you through Dark Pact. Because usually if you have Shadowblade, you want to be able to scout, and then the second you're in vision, like you know you're under a sentry, you Dark Pact, and then get away. But you can't do that against heroes like Doom and Bloodseeker. You have the Lincolns to kind of shield you from that, but I don't think... I mean, I would just prefer cheaper items that do the same thing. The way he's building does mean he plans to win the game at like 40 minutes. Kind of already said that. Like later on in the game, he wants like 3 or 4 items before he's even like an impactful hero. But the fact that he keeps catching this Monkey King is leading to the game being much easier. So, I mean, I'm going to rewind a bit just to see what happened here. So, he killed the Monkey King and used his ulti. So, in this game, you just need your ulti on Slark because so, on Slark, all 3 of your active spells are survivability spells. All 3 of them. Pounce, moves you. Dark Pact removes disables. And your ultimate, obviously, makes you pretty much immune to any damage for the most part, or stuns. So... Each ability represents, a response to like what you're against, and every hero in the game you can respond differently. So against like Doom, Bloodseeker, these 2 abilities don't do anything. I kind of said that at the start. Your only 2 survivability mechanics are like manning up with this spell, and which means like Satanic, and this spell. So in some games where I don't have ultimate, I'm willing to like scout. I'm willing to be aggressive, potentially go for more. But against like Doom Bloodseeker, my ultimate's my only source of survivability because these other 2 don't work. So I wouldn't have chased for more after the ultimate. I would have definitely backed off here. So he's going for full Silver Edge, which I definitely don't agree with. He needs Scotty or Basher, 100%. Okay, so there's no Doom. There is still Rupture, though. Okay. It's really important to de-ward if you're Slark. Like, if I didn't have a sentry on me here, I wouldn't connect to this fight. Because I knew I was in vision. We're gonna try to turn this into a Roche. Wow, he's actually flying so many sentries. Oh, milk's fine. Yeah. So you're kind of seeing the impact of his item build from my perspective, is he's just not enough of a threat. It's why I don't like the Lincolns. He just doesn't make the opponent scared. So a hero like Slark, the most common issues he faces is that he gets kited, and his team is dead before he does anything. That's like the two issues he faces as a hero. And you have to be careful of both. Like in either game, like any game, like defusals when you're scared of getting kited, maybe Ags, and items like S&Y Basher are like when you're afraid your team's gonna get killed before you do. So his items are like, the thing is, if he goes his items, I would have given Aegis to somebody else, because Slark's a hero that you're either frontline soaking up all the spells, but you're also scary. Meaning you built like threat items like Basher or Scotty, or you're like a follow-up. And he's building to be more of a follow-up because he has Centaur, Stampede, he has Batrider Lasso, he has Nyx to scout out. So he's building to be more of a follow-up. So because he's building to be a follow-up and he's got like a super defensive item, I actually think him taking Aegis is incorrect. I don't... You're not like going high ground as Slark. You don't hit buildings, really. Until like... You've killed everybody anyway, so... It's not like a high grounding Aegis, you know? You don't do that with Slark. So, Doom's dead, so they feel comfortable to go for more. Oh, neutral item. Oh. Oh, that guy almost got away. So he's going for his first threat item of the game. He is doing a very good job of de-warding, I will say that. Just keep a healthy distance between you and Radiant. Always be prepared to push ultimate if you see them coming. I like the preemptive pounce away there. Paladin Sword's a really nice pickup for a neutral item this game. I think I would have bought a Shard sometime soon. Maybe after Basher. He keeps catching this Monkey King on the trees. I don't know if this guy's like bad or what's really going on here. He is doing a good job of catching him. Did he pounce that tree? What happened here? That was actually pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, because pounce destroys the tree that you land on. That's actually really interesting. Well played. He definitely has to be very patient in these fights. He has to wait till the opponent separates and then catch them up, like pick them off. So he's doing a really good job with the patience aspect. It's really hard for him to enter fights when his team's dead, so he just has to get out. He has to use his team as like smokes and mirrors. And kind of like ambush the enemy team when they're not together. Yeah, so he sees that there's a hero bottom and a hero top, and his ultimate's coming off cooldown, so this is actually really good. He's like aware that they don't have enough resources to kill him. This is actually really good. He focuses the hero that disables him as well, out of the three. But then he dies because of Bloodseeker passive. Suddenly the game's a bit weird, you don't have buyback. The Shard's really important here because his ultimate's his only form of survivability. I think delaying the Shard for Silver Edge was a pretty big mistake. Like the upgrade to Silver Edge. I think the Basher and Shard were like absolutely necessary in this game as soon as possible. It's like maybe you want it from your Roche, but You didn't get the first Rosh very early, so I don't think you can afford to delay that. I try to have this idea of when I think I need Shard on Slark. Like, how urgent is it? Usually the urgency of Shard is how good my ultimate is that game. If, like, I can rely purely on my Pounce and Dark Pack to survive, then I won't prioritize the Shard as highly. But that's obviously not the case here. He's got DD. Okay. If they ever catch Doom, he should immediately focus him because it's super important. I would use the Shard on myself before I use my ult, because you have other saves on your team. Based on how important my Shard is, I'll decide if I want to use it on myself or others. In this game, I'd definitely only use it on myself. He's going for a Scotty. He's gonna TP in. No, he canceled. He wants to flank them or what? What's he doing? He's trying to abuse night vision? What's happening? He has to play off map pretty much all game anyway. Always wait for your buy rider to find the Doom. I'd be calling out to get the Doom if possible. Doom, you'd definitely rather get Ruptured than Doomed, because you can at least ulti and Shard and stuff. Obviously he has Aegis, but still. I do genuinely feel like this game become a lot easier because the Monkey King's in such a bad game. But I also think his build is like reasonable. It's not the exact build I would go, but it's like it fits the narrative of like long fights, play to survive, eventually build to be a threat. I think the timing to be a threat might have just been a bit late, so it made the game take a bit longer. It was like that one fight that his team went down and he got ignored. That happens a lot of Slark, so... But other than that, it's pretty smooth. I think the game was well played. Especially for somebody who first picked random Slark and isn't a Slark player. He had really good patience in these fights. I think that's like just good instinct of a Dota player. Aegis is like king this game because all the opponent has like a single volley to kill him, right? I think the Agi Blink's a really good finish to the items. You definitely need Blink on Slark nowadays. The Agi Blink's just like too strong in comparison to like any other late game item. I would have strongly considered Refresher as well, but since he leaned towards no BKB and a ton of stat items, I think Refresher makes you like it's just not useful enough. You're too non-threatening. So the Blink's definitely a good option. It's a good way to close out the game. Let your team get... He's playing the let your team get gone on and counterplay it play. Which I think is maybe better in pubs, to be honest. Because the way he's playing is like relying on capitalizing on his teammates, while the way I would suggest to play is like relying on your teammates to capitalize on you. So... probably a better pub mentality for sure to play the way he's playing. And looks like that's going to be it for the game. Yeah. Overall, I approve Qojqva. If I was a bronze tier Slark player, I would not play this well. GG's. What rating would I give out of 10? I would give this like I'd say like execution, it's probably a 9 or a 10. Like he played really well. Itemization, I'd say like 7, so probably around an 8 or 9.